Dave Talks Comics, Episode 74, Appleseed Comic Con 2015, Part 3. Welcome to Dave Talks Comics, a program on the subjects of comic books and cartoons. I talk about comic books I have read and cartoons I have watched. I talk from my notes. I don't go panel by panel or scene by scene. I try to do more than just summarize the stories. This program is not spoiler-free. I try not to spoil everything, but in the process of talking about these comic books and cartoons, I will probably spoil them in some way. On this episode of Dave Talks Comics, I will be wrapping up my coverage of Appleseed Comic Con 2015 in Fort Wayne, Indiana. The first thing you'll hear is my summary of the second day, the final day of the con, the time I spent there. And then there will be a number of little recordings from the road, as I did in the first episode, in episode 72. And then finally what you'll get is my concluding thoughts on Appleseed Comic Con 2 weeks after the show. I'm in downtown Fort Wayne, about a block from the convention center, sitting in my car with the windows rolled up. It's kind of warm in here. I just finished munching on some bird food, or whatever you want to call it, trail mix, that I started eating yesterday. Hopefully that'll hold me until I get to Panera, which is probably a 2.5 hour drive, something like that. There might be one closer. Actually, I know there is one closer, but it's in the wrong direction. I don't feel like going that way. So I just left the show. I didn't spend quite as long there as I'd planned on. It's only 12:45 now. I thought it would be 1 o'clock when I was leaving the convention center. I only had one thing that I had planned to pick up. Well, two things, but both from the same person that I had planned to pick up today. But I ended up buying a little more and talking to Anyway, that was Christopher Mitten, and there was, I think I mentioned on the previous recording that there was a page of art that I liked of his. And he said he would hold on to it for me because I didn't have my book, which is big enough to hold those 11 by 14 pages. So I went back to him. I got in there just as the show opened. He wasn't ready. He was kind of setting up, and so he asked me if I could come back in a couple minutes. So then I wandered down to that same retailer whose back issue bins I'd gone through yesterday. And I started going through their trade bins, which were all half off. And I saw a number of things that looked interesting. I saw a number of things that were very tempting, like the second volume of the Enemy Ace Archives, the fourth volume of the Doom Patrol Archives, both at half off. So that would have been $25 each. But I didn't get them. I decided to hold off. I just kept going through because I was just, something to do and I ended up spending a lot more than 2 minutes down there, and probably ended up spending 20, 25 minutes, maybe even a half hour down there. And I ended up pulling a couple things out that I bought. One was Queen and Country Declassified Volume 3. I haven't read Volume 2, but they didn't have Volume 2. I have read Volume 1. So I picked that up, and I was part of the reason why I ended up, there's two reasons why I bought it. Well, three. It's Queen and Country. Number one, it's Queen and Country. Number two, it was very reasonably priced. The cover price was only $9, and so half off was $4.50. And the third reason is Christopher Mitten did the artwork. Although I didn't get him to sign it. Partly because let me get into that. So after I paid for those, then I walked back down to Chris's table, and I paid him for the artwork. I also bought the first volume, Umbral, and the page that I bought is from that first volume of Umbral. And like I said, his pages were very reasonably priced. He was only asking for $25 each. He had some very nice looking pages in there. I know I think art fans want highly recognizable characters, and you're not going to get that in a book like Umbral. But I guess you get some archetypes, and I don't know. I thought the interactions on that page were very good. I liked it, and I'll post a picture of it. I have not taken a picture of it yet. And I told him that I didn't want... he asked if I wanted the volume of Umbral signed, and I was like, well, I'm not really big into signatures. He's like, okay, I won't sign it then. He didn't. It wasn't a big deal to him. And so for that reason, I didn't want to pull out Queen and Country Declassified Volume 3, because I don't know, why else would I pull it out unless I wanted him to sign it? I mean, I don't know. So after getting that from Chris, then I walked down to, before that, was it before that? I think it was right around then I ran into, no, it was after that. The next thing I did was I walked back to Tim Barron's table, and I chatted with him a little bit. We talked about old comic books, and I mentioned my podcast. We talked about cartoons a little bit, like Brave and the Bold, Batman Brave and the Bold, and Justice League Unlimited, and a little bit of Micronauts talk, and trying to think what else there was. We talked about inking a little bit, which I brought up in relation to Micronauts, and he talked about Alfredo Alcala. So we had a good conversation going. So then one of the reasons why I wanted to go back to talk to him was to buy one of his books, and I ended up picking up Krampus, which is a character that I've heard of, but I really don't know that much about. But he's kind of like the evil Santa Claus in a way, and only in the sense that he is supposed to punish children who haven't been good. At least I think that's the way Tim explained it, and the way I think I've heard it explained before. And he did a little sketch in the front for me. And after that, I walked down to... I was going to walk outside, and then I turned around and started to come back and decided, let me take another shot at talking to Jaime Hernandez and getting a sketch from him, because he was doing free, quick sketches. And I mean, honestly, at this point, he was willing to do more detailed sketch, but those cost, and also I didn't have the time for that. Not at this point. Maybe if I'd asked yesterday, I could have gotten one. And they were only $40, so that's really not that unreasonable, considering what some people will charge. Although not at a show like this. At a show like this, for the most part, the rates were very reasonable, I think. For the most part. Although I didn't exactly take a survey of all the artists to see what they were charging. Let's see. So I talked to Jaime a little bit. He seemed a little more comfortable talking about stuff other than Love and Rockets. We talked about San Diego Comic Con. I mentioned that I used to live in Southern California. I was at Camp Pendleton back in the early 90s. And that I'd had the opportunity to go to the San Diego Comic Con, but that I hadn't. And he did a sketch for me of... I didn't ask him. I just asked him if he could do a quick sketch. And he said, sure. And he just took out his paper, and he took out his pen, and he started drawing. So I had something else in mind, but that's okay. Maybe on another occasion when I see him, I'll actually pay him for a sketch. Although this was probably one of my best opportunities to get a sketch from him at a small show like this, because my guess is his list will fill up very quickly at other shows. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe I can... The character I wanted to get a sketch of was Reina Tintanyan, who is this female wrestler who's plays a supporting role, I would say, in a number of stories. In the volume Maggie the Mechanic, which is the first volume of his earliest work in Love and Rockets. And at the point that she shows up, I think there are some panels that show her as a wrestler, but in the stories in which she's in, it's always, if they show her wrestling, it's a flashback, although there's at least one scene where she gets into a fight. Yeah, which I was very impressed by. So I talked to Jaime, and I got a sketch, and I was planning on going to the Kyle Latino who did the panel that I went to yesterday on Jack Kirby. Was doing another one on creating comic books or drawing comic books, and I was planning on going to that, but I had I forgot to mention, right, before I talked to Jaime, there was people standing at his table talking to him already. And then a couple people came up to me, and it was Jerry McDade and Cam Smalley. Now, Cam I had seen the day before, and we chatted a little bit, but Jerry wasn't there yesterday. And he's somebody else. I met, did I meet both of them for the first time last year at Appleseed? I think so. I'm not certain. I might have met Cam before that, but certainly that was the first time I met Jerry. And so we chatted for a little bit, and then it looked like there was an opening, and they pointed it out to me, and so I went over, and that's when I talked to Jaime. And after that, I walked outside the convention floor, and I was tallying up my money, tallying up how much I had spent and what I had spent. And then I remembered that I wanted to get some more stuff from Sweet So Geek, which I keep wanting to call Geek So Sweet for some reason. So I went back in, and it was a different person. I think it's a couple. Chad is the guy I bought from yesterday, and I can't remember his. Oh, wait a minute! Didn't I pick up I thought I picked up a business card from them. In fact, I'm sure I did. I'm just not sure where I put it. If it's in my wallet or anyway. So I was chatting with her. I asked her about like the marketing, or not the marketing, but the licensing, because they do chocolates that are, things like the ones I bought today. Well, the ones I bought yesterday was like Han Solo and carbonite freezing, Iron Man's mask or helmet, I guess it would be. These are the shapes that the chocolates are in, and it's the ones I bought today. One was in the shape of a stormtrooper's helmet, and the other one was in the shape of Darth Vader's helmet, and then there was 3 pieces that were in the shape of the Star Trek Federation logo, I guess would be the right way to put it. So that's what I bought today, and yeah, so we talked a little bit about that. And she assured me that if I ordered something, if I shipped something, they shipped them with cold packs to keep the chocolate from melting or whatever else there might be in there that could melt. I bought one thing I bought was milk chocolate. I think one is dark chocolate and one is white chocolate. Yeah. So I think that's about it. Like I said, I skipped and by then it was like 12:30 or almost 12:30, so they were halfway into this panel that Kyle Latino was doing on drawing, so I just decided I would skip it. It'd probably be better for me to just get on the road. I'll be leaving about an hour earlier than I did last year, so hopefully I'll get home an hour earlier than I did last year. My plan is to stop at the first stop's going to be that Speedway, which was the last stop on the way in, and then the next stop is going to be at a Panera off of Route 23. Yeah, well, I don't need to go into too much detail at this point. I'll probably be recording little bits from the road once again. I have this bird food, this trail mix to keep me from completely going nuts, hungry, and I've got plenty of water. And so I think it's probably about time I get out of here and I get on the road back to DC. It's going to be a long haul. Oh, I need to get out my MP3 it's my tablet so I can listen to some podcasts and get out the earbuds. And I think that should do it. Yep. So, first stop of 8, I think, before I get home, is the Speedway just outside of Lima, Ohio, right near the intersection of, I think it's I-75 and Route 30. Yes. I'm outside of Lima, Ohio now. I think it was about 20 miles to get from Fort Wayne to across the Indiana-Ohio border, something like that. It was about 68 miles to get here. And my next stop's going to be in... Hold everything. Let's see. Nope, that's not it. That's not it. From Speedway to Panera. Here we go. Okay, it's about 91 miles. So that'll probably take me about an hour and a half. Continuing on Route 30 and then going down Route 23 to Powell, Ohio, to the Panera there. A couple things occurred to me along the way, things I wanted to mention, I forgot to mention the last recording. First thing was, I took a nap this morning after I had breakfast. I had more time between the time I got up at my regular time, about 6 o'clock. Well, that's a little later than I usually get up, but actually it was probably more like 6:30 this morning. But, and I had a little bit to eat at the hotel. I didn't bother to go out and buy something. They had the complimentary breakfast there. They had eggs and bagels and other stuff and juice. So I just had some apple juice and a bagel. Yesterday I had also some eggs. They didn't have any bacon, which... I had sausage, but I didn't really feel like having sausage. It was like sausage patty, so... but that was yesterday. Today, so I took a little bit of a nap, and I figured out got everything figured out. I got everything into the car, and all that, and then drove down to the con. And then, then the other thing that happened at the con, I wanted to say, when I was going through the boxes of trade paperbacks, not once, but twice as I was standing there, I had a bug, like one of those... I'm not sure what they are. I've certainly seen them before. They're kind of got I guess they must fly. I guess they must drop down. But I had two of them at about 5 minutes, 10 minutes apart land on my neck. And these things are not small. I didn't smash them. I just kind of flicked them off onto the boxes of comics, or onto the boxes of trades. And I kind of took that as a sign, but maybe I should move along and stop looking through the trays, that maybe I would buy too much. And as is, I spent $13. I bought, and I'm not sure if I mentioned that. I know I mentioned that I got that volume of Queen and Country Declassified, and then the other book was Jack Staff. I think it's the first collection of Jack Staff. I think there's more, but that's... It looked interesting, and I actually saw, I think Paul Grist is the creator of that, the writer and artist, and I found another couple volumes of another series he did called Kane, and both of them were reasonably priced, but I just didn't want to buy too much. I've got plenty to read. I don't need to be buying a whole lot. So, I think that's about it. I'm listening to The Indoor Kids right now, which is a podcast from the Nerdist family of podcasts. And it's a couple, Kumail Nanjiani and Emily Gordon, and they talk about video games with friends and people, then also some people who they don't really know too well, but it's kind of a conversation podcast, as I like to talk about it, as I like to say. And it's funny because this is one of these podcasts on a subject that I'm not really into. Like, I'm not really into stand-up comedy, and yet I listen to WTF and You Made It Weird, which are both podcasts done by stand-up comedians, and frequently feature the guests are stand-up comedians. And I listen to The Art of Wrestling, which is a podcast about wrestling, and I don't watch wrestling, but I enjoy the discussions, and sometimes they open me up to various things that I was unaware of. So, I think that's about it from now. I've been here about 10 minutes now. I use the facilities. I didn't buy anything. I don't need gas at the moment. I think I can get probably back to West Virginia, back to Triadelphia, before I'll need to gas up. although I haven't done the exact calculations. Next stop is going to be this Panera in Powell, Ohio, and it's about 90 miles from here, so probably a good hour and a half. And I've been on the road about an hour and 20 minutes, including this 10-minute break here. I am near Powell, Ohio. I just finished eating lunch, or late lunch, at the Panera here. It's about 20 after 4. Been on the road about 3 hours and 20 minutes. 3 hours and 15 minutes. Well, I guess it's about quarter after 4, yeah. So it's about 3 hours and 15 minutes. Been here for about 20. Other than, let's see. So I finished off listening to The Indoor Kids, and then I listened to another episode of Comic Book Addict. I think the third of the 3 that I downloaded. They were all fairly short. In the, I think one was less than 10 minutes. I think this one was about 30, 35 minutes. What else? So it was about 90 miles to here. After that, I listened to a couple episodes of Sci-Fi Noise, which covered the top 25 list from IndieWire on the top 25 sci-fi films. Of course, Sci-Fi Noise is hosted by Derek Coward, so it was his take on those movies, some of which he'd seen. I think most of them he'd seen. There's a few he had. And there was a number of films there that I want to see that I haven't seen yet. There was only a few that I'd actually seen. Oh, it was the top 25 sci-fi films of the current century, so since 2000, basically. Let's see. Other than that... Oh, and then I started listening to an episode of Leonard Lopate, on a book that's just come out on the Ghost Unit, which is about a unit during World War II, an army unit during World War II, whose job it was to make it look like the troops were in places they weren't, and they had like inflatable tanks, and they would make noise and things like that to make that look like the army was either bigger than it was or just it was in different places than it actually was. So I've just started listening to that. That's pretty interesting. I think that runs about a half hour, so probably have more than 20 minutes to go in that. I'm just off of Route 23 in Ohio. It's pretty warm out here, and this is a section. This is not a highway here. It is a highway further north, but I'm heading south towards Columbus. I'm pretty close to Columbus. So once I get down to, I think it's 270, the Columbus Beltway, I'll take that around, and then I'll take 70 west, and my next stop is going to be the Buckeye Lake Brewery, where I'm planning to get my growler that I bought last year filled with, probably with the stout if they have it on tap, which they did last year. And it's only about 45 miles to there, so I should be there in less than an hour. And I think that's about it. I don't really have anything else that I thought of to report on. It's hard to believe that I've actually been on the road for over 3 hours now. I don't know. I guess the podcasts keep me distracted, and this keeps it to a minimum. It doesn't make it... I don't know. It's kind of weird. As I described it to Zach Cruzy yesterday at the show, this is my weird little vacation because I drive 12 miles to spend a day and a half, and then I turn around and I come right back and drive another 12 miles, 12 hours, 12 and a half hours. So hopefully I'll be home a little faster than it took me to get there, but it's certainly going to be, I don't think it'll be any earlier than 1 in the morning by the time I get back. And so the next stop is Buckeye Lake Brewery, and I think I'm going to refill my water bottle now, and then I'm going to take off. I am in Buckeye Lake, Ohio. I'm just outside the Buckeye Lake Brewery. Just had a pint of their vanilla porter and had my growler filled with their vanilla porter. I also picked up a couple bottles of the coffee stout. So I'm about to get back on the road. I'm not sure if I'm going to stop in Cambridge or not, or I may just keep going until I hit Triadelphia. I don't know if I'll need gas then, but I'll certainly probably be ready for a break, at least to use the facilities. So basically it's just due west on 70 for at least 50 miles. 50 to 110 miles? Something like that. Let's see if I can find these directions. What's this? Nope, that's to Buckeye Lake. That's from Buckeye Lake to Cambridge. Let's see. Looking. I've got everything loaded in the cooler. Managed to fit it all without a problem. The ice packs are still nice and cool. Let's see. Here it is. Nope, that's not from Morgantown to Triadelphia, but from Triadelphia. No, this is the right one. No, it's not. That's from Cumberland to Morgantown. Morgantown to Triadelphia. Here we go. Triadelphia to Cambridge. So that is 57. So yeah, it's over 100 miles. Probably about somewhere between 105 and 110 miles from here to Triadelphia. And let's see, which exit is it? Exit 34? No, that's wrong. Exit 10. Yeah, exit 10, I recall. So next stop is the Sheets. I didn't have anything to eat here with my beer. And it is sweltering in this car. Of course, I got the windows rolled up at the moment just to keep the sound down from outside. But basically, I'm just going to get back on the highway and take 70 all the way back to Triadelphia, I think. And I'm buzzing a little bit, so I think I'll just take it easy. I won't get too aggressive, although I don't think it's that hard to do. Just, like I said, take it easy. And let's see, right now I've been here about 36 minutes. And it's almost 6 o'clock. It's about 10 till 6, about 5:50. So it's probably going to take me an hour and a half or close to it to get to Triadelphia. So that's... so I should be there before 6:30. No, wait, not 6:30, 7:30. Yeah, I should be there before 7:30. So I've got to finish off an episode of... No, I just finished off an episode of From Kid to Flash. And before that, I finished off that episode of Leonard Lope, the episode about the Ghost Army. And I'm not sure what I'm going to listen to next. I want to listen to something non-comic book. I had a lot of comic book stuff. Maybe I'll listen to Kevin Pollak next, because I got a bunch of these conversation podcasts coming up. Yeah, so I think I'll start by listening to Kevin Pollak, and that should get me most of the way. In fact, I probably won't finish that before I get to, unless I hit some traffic. Hopefully that won't happen. And let's see, it's with Peter Gould. And I think it's actually with Kevin, because the last couple episodes was when Sam Levine, my cousin, haha. Okay, that's it from Buckeye Lake. I'm going to get back on the road, and next stop, I think, is going to be Triadelphia. I'm at the Sheets in Triadelphia, West Virginia. I'll be in Pennsylvania pretty soon, though. Didn't bother to stop in Cambridge, like I said. So I'm through Ohio, and Indiana are behind me. I've seen a little bit of rain, but not a whole lot. It just starts, it lasts a minute or two, and then it stops. And nothing really hard either so far. And the skies at the moment aren't, well, there's clouds, but they aren't as overcast as they were at one point. Whatever buzz I had when I left the brewery back in Buckeye Lake is gone. All I had was a pint to drink. I drank it, kind of fast, but I didn't, so I had a little buzz, but it wasn't too much. And the roads weren't that bad either after I left. It took me a while in Buckeye Lake. They were very busy there. I mean, it wasn't packed, but the people, the wait staff were coming and going the whole time, and it wasn't, so it didn't take me long to get a beer, but then to get their attention again, it took a while. So I think I said it. I can't remember exactly if I picked up, but I got my growler filled with the vanilla porter, which I'm not sure if that's what I got there last time. I'm thinking I got the oatmeal stout, but they didn't have the oatmeal stout this time on tap. And it might have been the vanilla porter. I'm not sure. I probably have it written down somewhere. And I got and I got two 22-ounce bottles of their coffee stout. So I got all that loaded up, and there was plenty of space in the cooler for all that stuff. So I've been drinking water, and I'm really not hungry for dinner yet. I mean, it's been, let's see, it's about 7:30, 7:35, and I had lunch at 4, so it's only been about a little over 3 hours since I had lunch. I think I left there a little before 4:30. So I ate lunch around 4:30, and so it's only been a little over 3 hours since I ate lunch. Maybe I'll stop at one of the, and the beer, I'm sure, was, it's kind of heavy, kind of meaty, so that, helps to fill you up. And I do have the snacky food in the car. I'm going to want something at some point, so I'll probably, it's Sheetz, or all my stops from here to the end are all Sheetz, so gas station. So Morgantown, Cumberland, and Hagerstown. I'll probably stop. I'll probably get something to eat, either Morgantown or Cumberland. Morgantown would probably be the better choice because it's a bigger Sheetz. So I'm still listening to KPCS, Kevin Pollak Chat Show. His discussion with Peter Gould, who I didn't have any clue as to who the guy was, but it turns out that he's the showrunner for Better Call Saul, that spinoff of Breaking Bad, and he was also one of the writers on Breaking Bad. So they've been talking a lot about both Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. Although for the most part with Better Call Saul, it's mostly about how the show developed and how it grew out of Breaking Bad. Don't think there's a whole lot else to report. It's cooled down. It's not as hot as it was. It was really warm earlier. Of course, the sun's starting to set. If it's not completely set by the time I reach Morgantown, well, it might not be, because I might get there earlier than I did last year. I think I've taken considerably more break time at this point than I did last year, but by the time I left, I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't have the numbers in front of me, and I don't feel like crunching them right now. I do know that I've got about 290 miles to go, something like that. And I think about 175 of that is in, I think about 175 of that is in Maryland, and the rest is West Virginia and Pennsylvania. Let's see, anything else? I checked on the tweets. When I was at the brewery, I saw some tweets, a couple retweets of the picture I posted. I tweeted out of the commission that Dave Wachter did for me. I think that's about it. So I just use the facilities here. Probably going to need to get more gas when I get to, let's see, if I've come about 310 miles... plus, well, let's see, I think last time I gassed up was at 525. So I've done about 400 miles since the last time I gassed up. Yeah, I think I can make it to Morgantown. I think it's like 70, 80 miles. I think I can make it to Morgantown, but I'm definitely going to need to gas up when I get there. I have to find my directions for Morgantown. But, yeah, so far so good. I'm really not tired. I haven't been yawning or anything. I've been drinking water, which reminds me I need to refill my water bottle. And I'll finish off the Kevin Pollak's Chat Show episode, and then I'll probably listen to either Sidebar or maybe what's that other? Yeah, Comic Book Noise. And I've got a couple episodes of that to listen to. And I got a ton of other stuff on my tablet. There's no way I'm going to finish everything. But, yeah. So I think that's about it from here. I've been here probably close to 10 minutes. Yep, just about 10 minutes. So take care of a couple things, and I think I'll get on the road. I'm in Morgantown, West Virginia, at the same Sheetz I stopped at on the way out. I finally put some gas in the car. It's been about 482 miles, I think it was, since the last time. Put gas in the car way back near Lima, Ohio, on the way to Fort Wayne. Didn't have any problems getting here. There was a couple places where it looked like there was road work, but they just had, a lane closed off, and then it would open up again. There wasn't actually anybody out there doing road work. Little bit of rain, but really not much. The sun has set at this point. It's getting darker and darker. Once again, I use the facilities. I've been drinking a lot of water. I bought some pretzels. I still don't feel hungry enough for a sandwich or something more substantial than that, but I might by the time I hit Cumberland or maybe Hagerstown. I got about 71 miles to go to Cumberland. Most of what I got left is going to be in Maryland. I don't have very far to go to get out of West Virginia. Let's see, it's a little after 9 o'clock right now. It is, about 10 after 9. I think I have been here about 17 minutes, so I should probably get going. Nothing really to report. I finished listening to those 2 episodes of Comic Book Noise. Next up, I don't want to listen to Sidebar right away. I want to listen to something that's not comic book related. Maybe I'll listen to You Made It Weird. Yeah, maybe I'll listen to that. Still got a lot of podcasts on here. Yeah, there's no way I'm going to finish all these off. No way. So I've been on the road for almost 8 hours and over 8 hours and 10 minutes, almost 8 hours and 15 minutes. So I've got at least 3 hours and 45 minutes, I think, ahead of me before I get home. Maybe more. But I don't intend my next couple stops to be as long, unless I decide I want something to eat. Yeah. But I've got snacky foods. I got the pretzels, and I got the trail mix, and I got water, so I think I should be good. And I'm not tired. I'm still doing good. So far, so good. I mean, takes up a lot of time doing this, but at the same time, I really don't mind it that much. The one thing is my leg does get a little sore after a while because my car doesn't have cruise control. So I drive a standard transmission too. So I've got although when I'm on the highway, I'm not using the clutch all that much. But still, I got to keep my foot on the gas. So after 10 hours of driving, or even 7 or 8 hours of driving, which is what I've been out here now, my ass gets a little tired from constantly pressing on the gas. But, okay, so that's it from Morgantown. Next stop, Cumberland, Maryland. Well, I'm at Sheetz in Hagerstown, Maryland. Last stop before I get home. Kind of missed the turnoff in Cumberland. I couldn't remember exactly what the exit number was. There was only a few exits, and I should have just taken one of them and then figured it out once I was off the highway. And then I was past all the exits, and it was kind of too late to turn around because it was like 10 or 15 miles to the next exit or something like that. So I just kept going and did probably 130 miles or something like that from Morgantown to here. A little over 2 hours, about 2 hours and 20 minutes, 2 hours and 15 minutes, something like that. Probably would have made a little better time if it wasn't so dark and I wasn't unclear on the road, where exactly the roads were, the roads are kind of steep and all that, so anyway, blah, 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 that's my excuse. But I'm feeling a lot better than I did, what I recall, and from listening to my recordings from my last trip last year to Appleseed, the return trip. I mean, I'm kind of tired. I'm ready to get home. I did finally get something to eat here at this Sheets in Hagerstown. I got a chicken sandwich of some kind. And it was okay. It's okay. It wasn't awful. I probably should have gotten something at the one in Morgantown because I started to feel, started to feel hungry right after I left Morgantown. But then I was thinking I could stop in Cumberland, and then I didn't stop in Cumberland, so now here I am in Hagerstown. But I got only about 65 miles to go till I get home, so I should be home by, well, it's a little before midnight right now. I think I should be home by 1-ish if I take off now. I don't have too much. I've got plenty of gas in the car. I don't need to fill up on that. I already used the facilities. I already took care of feeding myself. I got little snacky foods here to fill me up to nibble on the rest of the way. And yeah, so I think I should be home by 1 or so, somewhere around there. Let's see how long I've been here now. I've been here almost 20 minutes, about 17, 18 minutes. So, I think I'm ready to head home. And I think I might do this again next year if I might. I'm not sure. Once again, it's going to depend on a lot of things. It's a ways to drive. I can't do it at the drop of a hat, and it needs to require a certain amount of planning, and I don't know. So we'll see. Don't think anything else that I thought about when I was... No, there's nothing else that I can think of right now that I wanted to say. Yep. So, next stop, home. Well, I made it. I'm home. Not quite as tired as I was last year when I got home, but I'm still kind of beat. I think maybe, I don't know, I started to yawn a lot towards the end of the ride. I ended up rolling down the window. I figured the breeze on my face would help to keep me awake. I think it did. I think the food probably, well, felt good to get a bite to eat. It also, I think, probably, I don't know, sent the wrong signal to my body that it was okay to shut down. So I guess I'm going to take everything inside and put all the beer away in the fridge and maybe straighten things up a little bit, but I'll probably go to bed pretty quickly and then take care of the rest of this stuff tomorrow. I'm not working tomorrow or today. It's a little past 1 in the morning. Let's see, it's about 1:15, which is a little earlier than I got home last year, but on the whole, it took me a little longer. It took me about 12 hours and 10 minutes to get home. I think last year was more like 11 hours, 50 minutes. But that could be because I took a different route, a slightly different route through Ohio. At least part of it. I'm not sure. But I'm home. I'm glad I'm home. And I think it's time to clean up and then get some rest. So it's been a couple weeks since Appleseed Comic Con occurred, since I was there. I haven't actually read any of the books that I bought there, but they're all sitting there waiting to be read. I don't have a great track record with that. I know last year I bought a bunch of things that I didn't really get around to reading until just before this year's Appleseed Comic Con. There's probably still a few things from then that I haven't read yet. What I have done is I have crunched the numbers, and on the whole I spent a little more than I did. Well, maybe more than just a little more. Maybe 10-15% more than I did last year. And I'm talking about everything. So I'm talking about my hotel, I'm talking about gas, I'm talking about food, I'm talking about stuff I bought at the show, art, comics, other stuff. I definitely spent more on the hotel, and I spent more on beer. I didn't spend as much on meals or on gas, and that's probably because I brought food to eat, and so I didn't eat out either Friday or Saturday night. On gas, I'm guessing it's because I think gas prices are a little lower than they were this time last year. I'm not sure. I spent more on art this year, but I spent less on comics. I bought a whole bunch of trades last year. It wasn't a huge number, but I bought, I think, 5 trades or something like that. I spent something like $50 on trades last year. And I also spent money on extras this year, which for me, there's a couple things. One is I actually bought an Appleseed Comic Con t-shirt this year, and I think these were t-shirts that were left over from last year. And I think I may have gotten the last one in my size, I'm not sure. And I also bought some treats from Sweets So Geek. And let's see, I spent probably close to $20 on those. So on the whole, I spent more than I did last year. I took a number of podcasts with me to listen to in the car. It was something like 25, 26 hours worth of podcasts. I mean, I figured I was going to be driving for, at least 20 hours. And I didn't finish all of them. I have, of course, since then. A couple other notes. I said something early on about seeing Ed Piskor at this show and maybe getting the latest edition of the Hip Hop Family Tree Free Comic Book Day comic. But I don't know why I thought he was going to be there, because he wasn't there, and I don't think it said he was going to be there on the website. But anyhow, as far as I bought a couple things that were drawn by Christopher Mitten. I bought an original page of art from his new series. Well, it's not really new at this point, but relatively recent series, Umbral. And I also bought the first trade of that. And then I also bought a volume of Queen and Country Declassified that he drew. What I didn't notice at the time, but then afterwards I did notice, was that the writer who worked with him it was the same writer who worked with him on both stories, and that was Anthony Johnston. Another correction, I think I referred to the Jim Terry, who did a great Loki commission for me this year, did a great Vulture commission for me last year. I think I called it the Condor instead of the Vulture earlier on the last episode, probably. And then finally, looking ahead to next year, I really enjoyed myself this year. Like I said, like I've said before, it's a really long drive, but I have fun doing it. Although I'm definitely kind of wiped out, and it kind of, even for the rest of the week, I'm pretty drained. I mean, the next weekend I was taking naps constantly. It seemed like, the next weekend was Memorial Day weekend, and so I had lots of time. I didn't have much planned, so I had lots of time, and I ended up napping almost every day. But as far as next year goes, I'm not sure if I'm going to go. And that's partly because I was thinking about going to another show, and that's specifically TCAF, the Toronto Comic Arts Festival, I believe it is. And I was looking online at their programming this year, and that happens right about the same time as Appleseed. I think this year it was the weekend before Appleseed, and it's actually more than just a weekend. And I think the official festival is just 2 days, but there's other stuff that goes on around the festival, and so it takes up like a whole week or something like that. I probably wouldn't go for the whole week, but I might go for more than just Saturday, Sunday. And it's actually not quite as far, it looks like, distance-wise at least, from Washington, D.C., where I live, to Toronto as it is to Fort Wayne, although I'm sure the border crossing is going to add time to the trip. And yes, I am thinking about driving there. So that's it for my coverage of Appleseed Comic Con. Once again, I had lots of fun. I think it's a great show. If you live anywhere near there, I think it's worth going to. There haven't been any announcements made as to when next year's show would be, although it was almost the exact same weekend the last couple years. So definitely worth checking out. It's not a big show, but they get some good names. They get some big names. This year was Jaime Hernandez was the big draw, and last year it was Jim Steranko. So it's definitely a show worth checking out. It's a fun show. It's definitely not New York or Chicago or even D.C. as far as the kind of city it takes place in. I hesitate to. I guess it's a small town. It's not a real big city, and it's very affordable. And it definitely gets a glowing recommendation from me. And honestly, if it was closer to where I live, I would be sure that I would be going back next year. That's it for episode 74 of Dave Talks Comics. Dave Talks Comics can be found on the web at davetalkscomics.com, on Twitter at Dave Talks Comics, on Facebook at facebook.com/DaveTalksComics. Email can be sent to davetalkscomics@gmail.com. I'm not sure what I'm going to be talking about on the next episode of Dave Talks Comics. On a few episodes ago, I mentioned the possibility of it being All-Star Squadron or Alpha Flight. I've also got quite a few things that I've read that I'm not sure if I want to devote a whole episode or even a whole segment to, so maybe I'll just go through a stack of things that I've read in the last couple months and just do some quick notes on what I thought of them. So that's a possibility. I'm Dave. Thank you for listening.